Thank you for tuning in to Koppen with Comic. I'm Brian Koppen, and we're with comic Tom Crescenzo. Tom Crescenzo, how the hell are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, good. Thank you so much for coming in. And where can people see you do stand-up comedy on stage in New York City, and where can they find you online?
You can find pretty much everything I'm doing on my Instagram, which is tom.crescenzo.
And so you're Instagram-based. Are you doing like video clips and stuff like that?
I do some.
Okay.
I want to get more into it. I actually just released one recently. It was this fun little clip about like me and my friends made a clip about what it would be like if like a convict just showed up at your house and just decided to live with you guys. And
That's
there's just
cool.
like nothing you can do about
Yeah,
it.
because he's a convict. I mean,
Yeah.
he's a pretty tough dude who doesn't he's not scared to get his hands dirty. Obviously,
Exactly.
he's already been a convict.
Yeah.
So he's just like threatening. And did you play the convict? Or
I
one of your
did
friends
play
did?
the convict. Yes, I wore an orange jumpsuit and everything.
You got a strong voice. I would think that you could play a convict.
I think it worked out.
Yeah, you got a nice strong voice, and perhaps well, before we get into Long Island life, where are you? I mean, you're on Instagram, and then where can they find you on stage in New York City, if at all?
You can find me because I do a lot of shows on Long Island, but
Okay.
you could definitely find me out. I go to Greenwich Village Comedy Club quite often if I know somebody's putting on a show there. Sometimes Broadway Comedy Club.
Okay.
Either like one of the showcases or same thing. Like if a producer I know is putting on a show, they'll throw me up.
Good.
I do. What else have I done out here? I've done a show at Otto's Shrunken Head once. That was
cool.
an interesting show.
And why was it interesting?
It was just like it was my friend. This comedian, his name is Evan Weiss, and he puts on good shows.
Okay.
But it was like one of those situations where the whole room was just comedians, so everyone was just kind of like screwing with each other.
Okay.
Yeah, he usually puts on shows with big crowds, but that was like a one-off. That's weird that I even mentioned it. It's like the one show I did at this place was basically an open mic, but I do shows there.
Yeah, but it sounds like he puts on good shows
No, he
routinely.
does.
But for that one, you drove all the way out from Long Island, right?
I took the train.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. And so you can take the Long Island Railroad, and it's a little bit quicker. But you tell me that Long Island can take 3-4 hours to get to the end of it. I'm so ignorant as to Long Island life. Let me know. Like, that's our topic today. Not only Long Island life, just teach me what the fuck it is, but also living with your parents.
Well, basically, Long Island life. I mean, if you want to get to know Long Island is like. Essentially, if you want to picture it as a person, it's like that kid who goes to your school who seems super rich and like he has everything, but then when you actually go to hang out with him, he like snorts Xanax out of like off like the rim of his like toilet seat.
So it's got its
like,
problems.
Yeah, it's one of those like. It's an interesting place because it's both very affluent and there's a lot of bad parts.
Yeah.
So there's drugs pretty much throughout. Like Long Island.
Even the good parts, but there'll be a higher class of drugs.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Like I always got very good weed. Yes. It was always top-notch stuff.
And so living with your parents on Long Island, what's that like? Are you guys in the better part or the worst part, and you still got good drugs, though?
Yes, we always get good drugs.
But what part of Long Island are you on, and what's that like?
I live in a good part of Long Island. I live in like Suffolk County, and there's like two halves. Like the part that's closer to the city is Nassau County, and then there's Suffolk County, which is more out east. And I live in this town called Comac, which is
Comac represent, right?
Yeah, Homac, baby. Yeah, but living with my parents just like it just sucks. Like they hate that I like smoke and stuff, so it's just like one of those situations where like I'm actually in a bad situation because they don't even trust me to drive now. So I'm just like
because you're smoking weed?
Yeah, because they don't want me to smoke and drive. So
Okay.
I'll be like, can I go somewhere? And they're like, yeah, we could drive you in like a half hour. And I'm like, oh, that's when it ends. Like,
So that's probably not. I mean, do you have a good crew of comedians out there that kind of make sure that you can still get your comic opportunities? Because if you can't drive anywhere, you're obviously not coming to the city as much as you could be, I suppose.
Yeah, no, I still would take the train, but yeah, it's harder to get it anywhere without a car. I have to take rides from people and sometimes just Uber.
To even get to your train stop too?
Yeah, even to get to the stop. The stop's not that far from me.
Okay.
But,
and then how long does it take on the train?
It's like an hour and 5-10 minutes.
But then you can just write hilarious jokes, right?
Yeah, exactly. You just sit on the train just writing all these great jokes about sex with animals. It's awesome. It's
And is that what's making its way into your act, like sex with animals, or are you trying to kind of talk about living with your parents?
That's actually, I do have a joke where I coincide the two and I say like
there's an overlap between sex with animals and your parents?
It's different. It's not like sex with an animal, but it's a joke where I say like, I live with my parents and like, it's nice, but it's not all great because like the only difference between me and my family's dog is they at least forgive the dog when he takes a shit on the floor. And then it's like,
that's cool.
How come when my dog like sleeps with my mom and dad, it's cute, but when I do it, it's like something I need help for. Or like, how come when my dog humps my mom's leg, it's funny, but when I do it, it's like borderline assault. You know what
So
I
I
mean?
love that, and it's more
Yeah.
it's more believable and thus more funny if you're also kind of doing it in connection with I'm high a lot of the time.
Well, yeah,
So me
definitely
me
that.
shitting on the
Yeah.
floor is just like that's the most credible of them
Of
because I
course,
suppose you
yeah.
can get so high that you shit all over the floor.
Exactly.
And
Yes, it's happened many times.
and then would you ever? I mean, like, is there an appeal of the city, or do you just think you're killing it out there such that you don't need to move?
No, there's a huge appeal of the city, honestly. I definitely would rather move out to the city and be able to do it out here because there is comedy on Long Island and it's good. Like, it's really just the governor's comedy scene,
Okay.
which is a fine comedy scene. They put on great shows with big crowds and stuff. There's just not like it's not like you would really get that much growth out of there. Like if you were like top of the line at Governor's, like
Yeah.
your real interest would be if you wanted to expand your like reach, you would go out to the city and start trying to do shows out in the city
Yeah.
and meet comedians out there and network out there. At least we're at the point in my life where I'm at. Like there's some older guys who are like, yeah, I'll just I'll hang out on Long Island.
I'll just be on. I'll be on Governor's. Like they already passed me, and so
Exactly,
I always got a spot here.
Yeah, I
and they
always
probably
got a
have
spot,
a
right.
family that they want to live close to
Of
and
course,
spend a lot of
yeah.
time with. And then, I mean, would you think that even your experience, I suppose, your experiential base could increase not only if you live in New York City, but also if you move out of the parents' house?
Certainly.
So
yeah.
right now, is it pretty pimp? They're not charging you rent, etc.
No, yeah, they're not charging me rent and stuff. Like I gotta pay for like anything. Like if I do drive, I have to pay for like the gas and whatever. And if I I have to get my own food unless they're making food.
Right.
Like, but yeah, no, it is a good situation. But there is that tough part where they don't let me hump my mom's leg. That's the hard thing.
And who are the comics you're kind of looking up to, though? Like, is there any comics either on Long Island or in New York City that you kind of would like a career like theirs?
Well, as far as like for careers, like it's probably mostly just like comedians out in the city who are bigger and who are like kind of making it in the game. Like I've had comedians who've been on TV, like on my shows, like because I produce shows
cool.
with a comedian friend of mine named Manny Cruz. We have
cool.
we have
in Long Island.
Yeah, in Long Island and out in the city. We go to the Brooklyn House of Comedy a lot.
Oh, cool. So if
Yeah.
you want to trade spots, I mean, this is the guy to meet. Tom,
Oh, yeah.
Tom Crescenzo.
Yeah.
And then are you also like the Instagram thing? Like, what's next as far as that's concerned? Like, do you have a video crew that's at your disposal? Like, do you have somebody in your crew who's got the technology? I guess you use an iPhone. That's
Yeah, for
probably
the
good
most
enough.
part, we use iPhones. Like we do want to get like camera equipment, like me and my friends who like make the sketches together. But for the most part, like it's really easy to just get like an editing software on your iPhone, and as long as like the lighting is good and you're in like a closed space, the audio should be fine.
Yeah,
and it
and
usually makes for a good video, even if it's something stupid.
Yeah, and even like I think it was Luis Galilei.
I know Luis.
Yeah,
Good
so
guy,
he
good
was
guy.
doing the thing with Graham Avenue, their web series, and so he was talking about he was able to buy something for the iPhone that allowed him to mimic a tracking shot. He just walked backwards on the street with this thing, but then it also had the benefit, I think, of improving the sound or something. So it's nice that iPhone has a kind of a suite of products that make it easier for comedy to live on Instagram.
Yeah, it does. It definitely helps because it also, when you're filming with like a camera and like a lot of equipment, there's more incentive to make a longer, more involved video. But most Instagram videos are really supposed to be like a minute long.
Yeah.
Unless you want to put them on IGTV.
Yeah, what's the difference between that? I was trying to figure that out.
Well, if you're just posting, I'm not sure. I've never done an IGTV post before, but I believe you have to pay for it. You might have to pay for the extra time because if you're just posting a video and it's just going to get cut off at a minute long. Like if it's a minute and a half, it's just not the Instagram post is only going to show the minute.
Because the IGTV is up to like 60 minutes or something. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I thought Instagram was less than a minute, but it's 1 to 60 minutes if you're paying.
Yeah.
And I suppose that probably is because of storage costs on their behalf. So 60 minutes would take a lot, right?
It does. And it's mostly for like branded content. Like a lot of comedians will put their longer bits on IGTV. I have friends who are comics who've put stuff on IGTV.
Okay.
It's like, it's something I would do. I just haven't thus far. And it's easier because I think when you're scrolling and you see a video that's like a minute long and you can just finish it, you're more inclined to watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
Than if you see a little blip that says watch the IGTV video, it's like, oh, I'm just gonna probably keep scrolling.
And what kind of, do people in your crew have kind of a similar sense of humor, like about fucking the, about jumping on the floor if you're
It's
high?
kind of my thing.
Oh, okay. So are you're the pot comic of Long Island?
I'm not the pot comic of Long Island. There's plenty of pot comics. I'm probably the most deranged comic of Long Island.
Really?
There's a couple that are. I shouldn't say. There's a lot of dirty guys.
Okay.
My whole the whole crew of people who I know, we all have similar senses of humor, but we all kind of approach it with our own sort of angles, and there's really all different kinds of faces like Long Island comedy, it gets overlooked, but there is a kind of a pretty, established scene of a lot of
cool.
different kinds of performers who
And
do
you're in the
their own
deranged.
things.
You're in the
Yeah, I'm in the
deranged.
deranged section. I'm in the section of people who are like talking to the wall and just like staring at the ground, spinning in a circle. That's where.
Oh, that's
That's
cool.
where I'm at.
That's cool.
But,
and so, I mean, are you? I mean, like, what is your writing process? I mean, is it just a deranged thought will come to mind?
It's not all deranged stuff. That's just the stuff I like. But yeah, usually like I'll sit down. Usually I smoke first if I can.
Yeah.
And I'll try to just think of something. I'll try to just think of what I was thinking about that day, and see if I can make anything funny. If it's like a lot of times it winds up being current events because of that, because nowadays people are just constantly thinking about current events.
Yeah.
A lot of times it'll just be like, I saw something, or like I overheard something at work, or I saw something offhand when I was like walking around outside, and I thought of something funny. I was like, oh, I'll just write that down for later, and then later I go back and like attack it. And I'm like, how can I make this into like an actual thing?
And it makes it easier to like store it on your iPhone or something.
Oh, I have it in I have it like in a Google Doc and like a document and like notebooks. I try to have my material in as many places as possible so I can always access it.
Okay. And I think I just saw Dan Soder's thing, and he talked about one of his favorite things to do is get high, take a shower, and have arguments with himself. Like he'll pretend that his boss from 5 years ago is in the shower arguing with him, and it was funny because he said, sometimes I lose that argument. Like, are you doing anything when you're high that kind of heighten the experience of either just being high or writing as well?
Nothing in particular, but when I'm, I'll oftentimes I'll just smoke and like I'll start like it's that like arguing myself, like what he says, like I'll just start ranting insanely. Like I would like if I were in a position like when I was in college, if I was writing stand up, I would literally be able to have like a bong sitting there, and I would just be like pacing around my apartment, just like this is why like racial issues will never be solved. Like I'm just yelling at myself in a room alone.
So I mean, have you been able to bring like solving racial issues on stage? Like is it kind of?
I don't know if I've solved any.
Yeah, but is it hard to even talk about that? Some of that stuff as a white person from Long Island.
Oh, certainly. I mean, especially when you're from Long Island, because people. It's like not only are you white, you're like implied racist. It's a new sort of stereotype. It came up. I noticed it in the past 10 years, but it's just like I guess because Long Island has a lot of those sort of older like New York Republicans who are just like because it's more affluent, like people have more money, so they're more inclined to be like, yeah, don't fucking tax me, or like and have generally more traditional values. So I could see why people from Long Island are like, oh yeah, this comic might be kind of racial, but
I would think though, like that would be allowed to continue. Like it would be easy laughs for you to get up and do, I don't know, iffy issues if you're just at Governor's or something.
If you're at Governor's,
and that's one of the reasons why it's probably best to make sure you're doing all sorts of comedy clubs, because some guy who's just a fixture at Governor's could, have issues with certain things if it's just not affluent Republicans laughing at his jokes.
Like if he kills at Governor's, he's gonna bomb somewhere in Bushwick. Yeah, like yeah. But it's true. It's true that I do like to do racial stuff. Like I just kind of like to present observations about. I don't like to make any like just kind of, it can be shocking depending on what it is, but like certain jokes, like it's just kind of like, I think, like I have this one joke about how like I saw an article about a guy who's transracial.
Oh, okay.
And he said he's born white but identifies as Filipino. And people, I'm sure you think that's crazy, but it makes sense because after reading that article, I realized I was also transracial because I'm Italian. I was born Italian, but I've always identified as white. Like that type of stuff makes me laugh. So it's like, I'll go for it. I just don't like, I wouldn't do like racial. I try not to do anything preachy.
Yeah.
So I try to avoid like, the heavily political stuff where it's like you're trying to make a point.
Yeah.
And I also don't want to like I like being offensive, but I don't want anybody to take it as like malicious. So I try to avoid doing things that are like, I try to do things that are more absurd than like outright, like this is designed to make you upset. Because obviously comedians don't want to make people upset.
Yeah.
If anything, we want to surprise you, but we don't want you to be like upset. So.
Yeah. Surprise you for the laughs in the room, and not enough to make sure that nobody's ever going to come to your show again.
Exactly.
And I think that the Italian white thing is pretty. It's almost a non-offensive joke. That,
it's not really.
It's ostensibly racial. You're like, I guess it's kind of racial, but really, it's just there's no danger in that joke. It's funny, so you might as well put it in.
Exactly, because it's just like it's not really like hurting anybody. Like I have seen comedians who do jokes where it's like, they'll actually like, and it's a lot of times just older guys, but comedians will just be like, you ever notice how like black people, and then you're just kind of sitting at the open mic like, oh my gosh,
this could go so
this is
awful.
It's gonna be one of these. You just kind of, and you just kind of sit there and you watch it crumble in front of you, and like, it just gets uncomfortable after that. And hopefully the next person who comes up is funny and brings the room back around a little bit.
Yeah, and then when you're doing your own shows out there on Long Island, are you kind of, the host? I mean, you're also giving yourself a spot, I hope.
Yeah,
but like, are you a host?
Shows,
okay, and where you're gonna have to like bring the room back if you ever get up there and have somebody who's not very, I don't know, PC.
I mean, I've had like, it's really not that, like, I don't mind if people are PC or not. Like, I'm certainly not a PC comic myself. I just think it's important to take things into consideration because in order to be like, if something is, the rule of thumb is if something is like this offensive, like level 5 offensive, it should be like level 11 funny, you know? Because it should be like way funnier than it is offensive. If it's like too offensive and only like slightly funny,
yeah, if everybody
it's just not worth it. It's almost like the cost. It doesn't add up to what you know.
And I always think you probably couldn't make something too, like, in order for it to be hilarious, belly laughs across the board, everybody in the room laughing their ass off. It probably wasn't that offensive.
Exactly. Like if people are really like rolling on the floor, if it was that offensive, it has to be like one of the smartest things anybody's ever said.
Good
and make
point.
Perfect sense.
Yes.
Otherwise, like, if they're laughing that hard, A, it either wasn't that bad, or B, it could honestly just be a room full of very strange people. Like, you never know.
You're playing governors,
Yeah, exactly. You're governors, so you know what to expect.
And so they can find all this hilarity on Instagram. Are you Tom Crescenzo on Instagram?
I'm Tom.Crescenzo. My last name is spelled Crescenzo. You can also find me on Twitter.
Okay.
And that's my name on Twitter is Knuckle Dragger, but if you want to find, it's just at Comedian Tom C. Also, but and then I'm also on Facebook too. Like, I have a Facebook page. It's called Tom Crescenzo Comedy. I'm trying to get that page more involved and like, start posting on it more because I try to like match that with my Instagram because right now my Instagram is where my stuff gets the most attention because I just don't really like going on Facebook.
Right, but and even Facebook pages, they're a little bit unfair. Like, if you have 1,000 people who liked your page, your post is not necessarily going to all 1,000. It's almost like you have to pay to play there.
You do. I did try to pay to boost a post because I actually did a show just 2 nights ago. And we were having my friends produce the show. It's this they have this little thing called Comic Consent, and they produce these shows at Stand Up New York. That's another club I forgot to mention. They do Stand Up New York.
Cool.
And they invited Mark Norman to be on the show, and he actually came and was on the show. And we were thinking like we should be able to like sell tickets if we're actually going to have a comic like Mark Norman on it. So I was like, I should pay to boost some posts on Facebook. So I paid to do one, but then they like denied it.
Dude, that's fucked up, right?
Yeah, it's annoying because you're like, all right, here's my card number, I'm paying, and then it's like, sorry, like
we can't take your money.
This post has too many words, and it's literally like, and literally the post is just like, come on this date, and it's like, yeah, that's too many words. Sorry, five. Like, you got to dial it down a little bit, guy, and it's like, oh.
But like, YouTube is a lot. YouTube, Google, that whole thing is a lot of the same thing. Where I'm trying to, I had to pay to promote certain things, and it was just shocking the number of videos that were benign and just super polite, etc., were called shocking content. And it's like, I can't even pay them to promote the most lukewarm, just the most PC episode of all time, and they're calling it shocking and graphic. I'm like, what the fuck? Maybe it's cursing. Yeah. Maybe it's just cursing or something. I have no fucking clue.
At least with YouTube, I know that if you curse, they monetize you less. Like, if you're someone like Logan Paul or a YouTuber who makes a lot of money, and you like, and you say like fuck in one of your videos or something, like, they'll probably be like, we're still going to pay you, but if it's going to be like not necessarily child-friendly like material, then we're only going to pay you this much. And then if you start doing like Alex Jones level, like insane, like
InfoWars shit,
like that type of subject matter, they're just going to be like, yeah, you could be on our site, but we're definitely not going to pay you. And then if you get to Alex Jones level, they're like, you're actually not on our site.
Would Alex Jones do well at Governors or no?
I think he would do pretty well, honestly. Okay. Honestly, I think he's funny just in an ironic way. Like, I've seen him on Joe Rogan, and he's just like insane. Like, he's just like, he'll just be like, the water turned the frogs gay. Like,
and you kind of like that. That probably fits with your humor a little bit.
Yeah, it does. It fits with my humor. Like, I don't know how seriously he takes himself. I think he's like a performance artist, but if he takes himself that seriously and believes that makes it even funnier to me, because like, this person is actually psychotic and like has a fan base.
Well, I really think that your parents should let you shit on the floor because you're hilarious. So Tom Crescenzo, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.